the quick intro that I gave was just, hope everybody can hear me. If you want to participate by video, please do. But if you don't, let your voice be heard with questions, and everybody can turn on and off their mics. I'd only ask that with this many people, we try and keep the background noise to a minimum until we're ready to engage in questions and answers, which again can be at any time. I work for Market Your Craft. I had the great pleasure of presenting in February. We also had the first in a series of presentations, webinars for follow-ups for folks like you who are trying to market their winery in a more compelling way. So we're hoping to give you the tools you need, not only in general for marketing, but a little more specifically this time for marketing through this crisis. And it's a weird time. Certainly don't need to tell you that. But I talked to Nicole most recently, and she said that what would be best is to reposition the packaging presentation that we were going to make today and really make it just about tools that are very actionable in the short term for you folks to continue to communicate during this crisis. So ask any questions that you have, stop me. I'm going to see if we can pull up the slide presentation really quickly, and we'll go from there. So something that I'm curious about, and you can pipe in if you'd like, but I want to make this most valuable for everybody. And we have 4 topics and really 6 in general that we're going to talk about today. And the topics are going to be completely focused on what we can do right now, but it's website with online ordering, pickup and curbside delivery, local delivery. We've got social media, customer service, email, public relations, and video. And is there a general feel for what the group might be most interested in? Because we're going to want to spend the most time on those areas. Is it people trying to figure out video or social? Could people really benefit from talking about quick e-commerce? Is there a gauge out there?
Well, I know at our winery, at Nearwood Winery, we're just doing curbside service. And I've been trying to promote that on Facebook and Instagram and my website. So,
that's great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen. So curbside is definitely, promotion of curbside is something that we want to talk about. Anything else by anybody?
Yeah. Well, and also I think people are kind of now even afraid to go to curbside or to pickup because they think that somehow they can get the virus by touching other things. So I just saw today on Facebook where one of the wineries in New Hampshire or something had their dog with a little saddlebag on, and the dog delivered the wine to the customers in the parking area. So, I mean, that's pretty creative.
That's a well-trained dog.
Yeah, yeah.
This is Nicole. I think most wineries have shifted to the curbside, as well as the call ahead, get your order, come in and pick it up, whatever. Local deliveries, and then also shipping online.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very helpful, Nicole. Thank you. So maybe what we'll do is we'll just go through all of the areas, and we'll make sure to spend a little bit more time on the social piece of it, making sure that you're communicating correctly and appropriately during this crisis. And then also any of the marketing means to help promote and get the word out there about the delivery and sales options that you do have available. All right, so let's share over. So again, stop me at any time, but if everybody can see my screen, Please let me know if you can't. So we're going to talk about marketing during the crisis. And it's no doubt that things are strange right now. It's completely understandable. Definitely since February when we talked, everything has escalated, and it seems to happen by the minute. I don't need to tell you that. More important than any of this is we certainly hope that your family and your friends are okay. This is a weird time, and it's helpful to remember what's important, and what's most important is family. Business, of course, is a close second to that, which is why we're hoping to give you tools to help market your business during this time. What's important to remember is that it's okay. It's okay to market. Some people might say it feels gross, and I completely get that, because there are some brands out there, some businesses, even within wine, who are taking advantage of this situation, and it's disgusting. There's a difference between marketing appropriately during a time like this and truly taking a customer focus and just being obnoxious about it. And so maybe if we all could level set just for a second and kind of take a breath and take a pause and understand that it's okay to be having this conversation, and we're not being sneaky or strategic, or we're not trying to capitalize on misfortunes that are happening out there. We just want to continue to market through this, because when this is over, and it will be over, we want for customers to come back to us and have those social experiences at our wineries and the tasting rooms. If you go quiet, which we of course don't recommend, they're going to go to somebody else, because what we talked about last time is your goal hasn't changed for this year. Obviously, your plans and strategies have been radically upended, no doubt. But what we talked about last time was being very strategic and aggressive about getting 3 new customers for every single current customer. We want to replace our current customers with new ones. Now, what we want to talk about today is how to respond to this appropriately. And, like I mentioned just a second ago, you could do 1 or 2 or 3 things. You can go quiet and not say anything. You could go about your day just like business is normal, or you could really in the middle figure out a customer focus. Now, that's not to say that there are aspects of either one of these extremes that are appropriate. Going quiet when you don't have anything to say is completely appropriate. Business as usual, to keep the lights on for your business, is completely appropriate. It's the communications piece, and it's how you engage with the customer that changes. So today we're just going to have a singular focus, and that is giving you a checklist of things that you can execute immediately to continue to communicate through this crisis. If you haven't met me already, again, Scott Colby, Market Your Craft. I've had a little bit of fun with some brands. I also, if you attended last time, I told you that I was bottling a Chilean Malbec, and so this is my set of Chilean Malbec bottles, which are now resting peacefully in my cellar. We really, at Market Your Craft, take a look at brand vibe, and I won't take any time with this, but the idea is that you want to connect emotionally with customers. And today we're going to talk about 2 things specifically from the 6 that we really identify as our methodology. And that's knowing how to talk with customers appropriately, and then what content do you want to share? And there's always more information available at Market Your Craft. And all of this information, for those of you who aren't familiar, the presentation as well as any materials and the video will be made available immediately after the presentation. So how do we market our wineries during crises? We're going to talk about customer service, social media, pickup, video tours and tastings, public relations, and email. And again, stop me in those areas where you really want to take the most time. Customer service is important, and it's always important, but especially nowadays, because people are confused and they don't know whether or not your winery is open. Half of the clients we have, the majority of phone calls that they get are, hey, are you folks even open? Because there's just a lot of misinformation out there. So customer service is an essential extension of your brand right now, because people are curious. They want to know if they can continue to do business with you. And if you've read the stats, I know your tasting rooms have definitely taken a hit, but off-premise and wine stockpiling is huge right now. And so again, what part can you take? What portion of those sales can you get? Customer service is going to help that. We like Facebook Messenger, and most of you who have the social media presence, at least on Facebook, have enabled that free messenger in the bottom right-hand corner. And it usually has that somewhat welcoming phrase, someone will be with you shortly, or how can we help you today, or we typically respond within 2 hours. It's great. That's a direct connection with your brand, more so than the Facebook page itself. Well, Facebook actually has a messenger for websites as well. And we didn't see any of the wineries on the call. We didn't see anyone, and I might have missed it. You're going to see that we try to pull in examples from the wineries who are participating and attending. We didn't see anybody using Facebook Messenger for their website. Essentially, it's a customer service arm of your website that connects directly to Facebook. And the point is that you want to respond quickly. Whenever anybody has a question, whether that's something as simple as, are you open, to something a little more involved, like, are you still shipping my club shipment? What can we expect in terms of charge to my credit card? You know, some of the more complicated discussions. So every means of communicating with your winery is a customer service channel nowadays. If it's phone, email, social, don't ignore or run away from negative comments or questions. People are conflicted right now. They're wondering whether or not they should support businesses that are open. And I don't need to tell you this, a lot of people question whether or not alcohol, liquor, wineries are essential businesses. So don't shy away from comments like that, but you may want to take them private if it involves a little more in-depth answer. Always follow up. The opportunity for customer service isn't just in the moment, but it's following up after the fact. I hope the pace is good. Let me know otherwise. So, some tips here. Do discuss what you're doing to support the community. And it's the broader community, right? It's local, city, region, as well as the wine community in general. If you have the ability, the financial ability to relax any fees, penalties, relax your return policy, what, of course not on liquid, but merchandise and others, try and be as flexible as possible. Obviously, it goes without saying that the club members are most important in these customer service scenarios. So let's please do what we can to appease them, especially when they have questions. Don't get political or voice a position. It's very easy in personal conversations, especially when a bottle of wine is involved, to go off on what's happening and whether or not you're for or against the nation's response to this, it's not right. The customers don't they don't deserve, nor is it really the content of a good customer service experience to really get political on a call like that. So save those conversations for home, I'd recommend. Excuse me. And then the last one is internal procedures. We see this in other areas. I feel like there was a wave of winery, brewery, distillery emails that went out the first week that we started to see California and New York with restrictions on retail and public gathering from 200 to 50 to 10. Like, everything escalated so quickly, and there must have been a relatively templated legal response that was sent out to associations and such. But there have been a lot of emails and also a lot of customer service and social posts that have just content like we've installed new hand sanitizers. We've doubled down on cleaning. We were wearing masks. This is important, but it doesn't add any value to the COVID conversation right now, especially seeing that we are in a no gathering scenario. So try and stay away from discussing any internal procedures unless you have a question, perhaps like Joan brought up. Well, what are you doing to make sure that we are safe when you're delivering this to our car? You can only do best practices. Answer one-offs if they come up. Show them that you're caring about keeping your hands clean and using gloves and transporting the cases of wine directly to a club member's trunk, whatever the case may be. But you don't really need to broadcast that. It's more responding to the one-offs. And then the last one here is just, we tried to find a best practice, and again, we weren't able to, so I pulled up just an example of how we look at this. And this is the test e-commerce site that we were able to put up very quickly to show customers. And that is quick addition of products, local delivery and shipping options. And then in this bottom right-hand corner is an example of Facebook Messenger added to the website. And again, this feeds directly into Facebook, so you don't have a second login. You don't have to go to a different application in order to address this customer. Just try and funnel everything that you can, either to Facebook or Drift or another application that you might use. You use your website, ours in this case. If somebody could mute their phone, that would be great. So do use Facebook Messenger if you're able to. All right, unless somebody stops me, I'm going on to number 2, social media. Social media is an interesting one because everybody is talking about this. What is your role in the conversation? And it's kind of a gut check. It's trying to understand, should you participate in the conversation? What do you have to say? What's of value to your customers? Just like customer service, right? Well, we would suggest that you probably, again, not doing business as usual, you're probably going to take a look at the calendar of posts that you put together for this month, and you're going to look at it a little differently now. You're going to see whether or not it's relevant. You definitely don't want to have any joking in there. I was impressed, actually, by as a whole, not really having any April Fool's jokes. It just wouldn't have been appropriate. So take a look at the calendar of social media, see what has changed, but continue to promote your product. Just do so in a way that's a little more customer focused than ever. How has your situation changed at the winery? What's the sales procedure look like? Is it online order for local delivery or pickup? Do you order by phone? Help people to understand those things. Video entertainment is okay. You still have a team working at the winery or the meadery or any of your properties. Your facilities are likely still open. You may be working on a reduced staff or a lean team, and I completely understand that. However, show people what it's like to be working through this. Show them some behind the scenes. Are you doing some barreling, transfers? Are you having a little bit of fun? It's not gross or disgusting to show people that through this you can still maintain your spirit. So video entertainment and what we're going to talk about later with tastings is very important. You could also ask for user-generated content. What if your club members were actually sending in content about how they're enjoying your wine at a intimate family dinner, sheltered in place or otherwise? Now, it's completely in bounds to use something like that. And then there's always goodwill messaging, because again, the spirit of wine is strong. Let's make sure that people know that we're there for them. It doesn't ever have to be highly produced. That's the thing that I feel like wineries, breweries, distilleries, they all get in their heads about, man, this has to be perfect. And I'm on display, I'm on stage. It's like I'm an actor or an actress. No, it just has to be real. So show people what it's like to be working through this. Things to avoid, we would suggest is, again, don't over communicate what's going on. They have that information for themselves, and also probably by way of better sources, World Health Organization and others. Don't joke about COVID. It's not funny. And there's a time for having fun, and there's also timely, again, being a little more silent or a little more reserved when it's not appropriate. Don't be overly promotional. Don't be forcing your products down their throats. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but there are some wineries that are being very aggressive in the Iowa region about promoting these products, almost tripling down on email and other means of communication. And I would just urge you to find the sweet spot. I don't personally think that it's appropriate to package something like a COVID survival kit. I just, doesn't feel right to me. I know that people are doing that. It's more so maybe packaged under a name or a label of togetherness, or we're going to get through this, or something that's a little more uplifting and a little less anchored to the current crisis. Look beyond this. Don't play the victim or take a new stance. If you haven't ever been political before as a winery, if you haven't stood for something either in politics or otherwise, do not use this as a new opportunity to get up on a pulpit and talk about it. People do not want to hear that right now. And they also don't want to hear, even though it's most likely very true, and I don't mean to oversimplify or belittle this at all. I understand that businesses are struggling right now. It's just not something that you want to play up in your communications. People know. What you would, the positive aspect of that is, thank you so much for the community support, the outpouring of support. You see how that takes a very different tact than we might not even keep the lights on if you don't buy my wine. And that's an extreme. I have not seen that, but I think it could go that direction very quickly. And again, don't overshare. I believe that Buzz B might be on the call, and I just really liked this particular post. personally, I'm not a huge proponent of featuring children in alcohol posts, but there's a gray area right now where the need for comfort and family is there, and I think it's in bounds right now to show family. However, my general position is not to feature any underage people in posts, at least unaccompanied by an adult. Has nothing to do with this, but the family has been really posting aggressively recently about what they're doing through this crisis. And this particular post was very engaging with a panoramic 360-degree view that you can actually scroll left or right, up or down. And it's a little thing. However, it's engaging for people, and people want to be entertained by you right now. They need to be entertained by you right now. So we need to pull out all the stops. And no doubt this was, a very thoughtful post, and it took a little bit of tech, completely get it. But it was low-hanging fruit to help keep people engaged and also keep BuzzBee kind of top of mind. So thank you for a great example. Unless we have any other questions, I'll continue with the next one, pickup and delivery. So Joan had mentioned this, and I'm sure this is top of mind for everybody. And Nicole said that most people have executed a curbside sales strategy, and completely get it. This is a gray area right now that maybe wineries didn't have this option before. Now is the time to be really promoting this. Not only are you going to get the outpouring of support from the community, because they want to see you survive, they want to see you get past this, and at the same time, they want some sense of normalcy that your wine will provide them. So I would just ask you what role your website plays in that, because what we're seeing is not a lot of online sales. We might see for those wineries that have already e-commerce set up, like we'll see in a second, they've already got shipment and reciprocal agreements or licensing across states, and that's fine. For those wineries that don't have that option right now, it's very easy to have that option. I've been working with a couple producers here recently, and we were able to, within basically 48 hours of starting, enable their e-commerce for them. And it's a long-term play. We went with a best practice provider that I'm going to show you in a second, and they were able to not only help themselves for the short term, which is enabling e-commerce so that the transaction at curbside or local delivery is more frictionless or contactless. But this is something that they can continue using after we get past this crisis, not only from hopefully a shipping perspective, but at a minimum merchandise. And if the ABC continues to allow us to have a little bit more play with local delivery and pickup, then this is still an option for them. The only reason I emphasize this is because it is an opportunity for you folks, if you're not already taking advantage of it. Orders by email are fine, but it's just not very efficient from your perspective. Orders by phone are also fine. It just requires a little bit more work, and obviously swiping through a kiosk or Square or Stripe or whatever means you have of kind of a retail transaction. Just make it as easy as possible for customers to order nowadays. It's even more so than during normal times. They want to be confident in the purchase, and they want to have quick access to the product. And so this is the platform we were talking about. Most of you may have heard of this. If you've got a WordPress site, this is well rated, but this is what we put together in basically an hour. And that was, we enabled product with multiple views, descriptions. We enabled that for e-commerce purchase tied into the business PayPal account. It's, if you don't have a Visa, chances are good you have some type of credit card processing right now. But if it's more manual than not, if you have a PayPal account, you can have online e-commerce within a couple of days. Any of the transaction fees are very similar to what you pay per credit card at retail, and the funds are automatically deposited to your bank account. I'm not trying to promote this too heavily, but I have seen wineries, breweries, distilleries alike turn around e-commerce immediately because they realize that in order to survive the next couple of weeks and to keep kind of top of mind with all their customers, they want to broaden the opportunity to sell. And with these relaxed rules from the ABC right now is the time to play in it. So that being said, this is one of many providers, and we have a sample store that you can see all the different aspects and options available to it. Now, I believe Somerset might be on the call, and so we actually thought this was a great website just in general, but they're using Vino Shipper, and there's no kind of explicit promotion for things have changed, but through Vino Shipper, if you actually put the product in your cart, then it says not only do we have this selection of states, but we've got local delivery available as well. So there is a more subtle communication about that. And then on the website and socially, they do a better job of really communicating the online purchase options for offline fulfillment.
Hey, Scott, this is Nicole.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, I know a lot of you wineries use Vino Shipper, and so I reached out to them because I'd seen this done on a couple other states, and so I was able to set up, they worked with me last week to set up an Iowa Vino Shipper page, which has all Iowa wine and any products you sell through Vino Shipper on this one page, which is really cool. So I can send that out to everybody afterward. It doesn't, you don't have to do anything to be included on it. And if you're not included on it, let me know and I can certainly go back to them. But I just wanted to put that out there, that I did get that done, and we'll be promoting that on our socials. And also, I think Bob Walker, Kevin FIFO sent me some new, I don't know, regulations or things that they're requiring. So I'll send that out together, but I just wanted to make that plug while we're talking about Vino Shipper.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming that you have to be a Vino Shipper customer currently in order to show up on that all Iowa page.
I think so. I have it. If anybody wants to go to it, I'll put it in the chat box. Not that we're multi-purposing while we're on this, or multitasking while we're on this webinar, but I threw it in the chat there if anybody wants to check it out.
Excellent. All right, we'll continue on. This is something that we've been really hot on for the last couple of weeks, and it's what I said earlier about not needing to be perfect, not needing to be a movie star or have the perfect hair. It's just about being real. And this.
Hey, Marley.
Hello. All right, someone was on. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real. And people want to be entertained. They have a disproportionate amount of free time on their hands right now. and everybody's online. It's just a fact. If you're not playing with your kids or tending to things inside, if you don't have a work from home situation, you're spending a lot of time online. And so to entertain them in these ways with video is, again, low hanging fruit that we all can take advantage of. Things that you might consider for Instagram Live or Facebook Live, which, aside from likes and comments that are happening in the feed while you're broadcasting, we really consider this more of a one-way video communication. We're going to talk about two-way with video conferencing, but just imagine yourself walking with your phone through your winery, or setting up outside when somebody receives the order with the dog that took the order to the car. However you do it, highlight what you're doing. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be real. Try and keep it under 30 seconds. Use personalities. Use your voice as a brand. People want to see this, and again, have some appropriate fun. The second piece is a little more engaging, and this could be happy hours. You've seen this. We've seen great examples of yoga. So a yoga instructor or a guest speaker or somebody of interest to the group, they actually are simulcast for everybody to see. That's engaging. There's a little bit of drinking involved potentially. It's fine. All of these things are in bounds, and honestly, it's just like a small list of the hundreds of things that you could do. We've even seen people use Netflix Party to have more of a movie watching event together. So just take a minute and think about, is there something that you may have had offline, a live band, for example? Is there a way to offer that local band the opportunity, or the soloist or the guitar player, to play a quick set for a half hour and have them on GoToMeeting or Zoom? Again, it gets their name out there. They're probably bored as well. Keeps your customers engaged. Opportunity to sell your product, especially if you can get the product into their hands with curbside or shipping. A lot of creativity there. The last one is, full-on tastings. And we've seen the full spectrum of this, where a winemaker or a production team actually gives a very personal tour of a vertical set of wines, or this season's wines, or a particular thematic package that they have for sale. So again, appropriately labeled. Let's not call it COVID survival package, please, but appropriately labeled, you can include in the case of 6, shipped to a residence or picked up for curbside, include an hour with the winemaker. He or she could have a very intimate tasting that, again, doesn't have to be professionally produced, but imagine that behind the scenes experience now, when customers are looking for something to break up the monotony of their day, rather than just posting to Facebook, day 23, I'm eating the same sandwich again. This is what we're resorting to, which that's another thing. But educational and entertaining, you can do both. Make sure that they can get their hands on the wine. And this is a bit extreme, but $400 or $500. These are a lot of the Napa wineries, which I don't think you're in it right now to make money. I know that we have to keep the lights on, but it seems like that's a bit extreme for 6 bottles of wine and an hour with the winemaker. Let's make it approachable. Let's make it accessible, and let's just do a lot of them. And we haven't really seen a lot of activity in Iowa around this yet. We perhaps missed it, and feel free to chime in. However, it's been a little quiet, I believe, in that area. All right. Tips for live video, very important. Just remember that you want to promote this as much as you can. You want to have the broadest audience to make it worth their time and make it worth yours. Practice a little bit. You don't have to, again, be perfect, but you just have to, have the opportunity to get your best foot forward, put your best foot out there, and just run through it once with your team before you do so. Understand how the phone works, what format it'll be saved in, can you archive it, can you upload it? Ultimately, where does that video live after the fact? Sound quality. Obviously, I had the microphone off when I first started. Probably should have checked that one out beforehand. Always respond quickly to comments and questions and thank people for watching. Just some of these things, just don't stress about it. Don't make it an obnoxious sales pitch. It's important. And then don't ever encourage overconsumption. It's just not a good play for you right now or ever.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
This is Bob Walker with Walker Homestead. Saturday, we conducted our second live virtual wine tasting on Facebook Live, and it went over really well. We're trying to keep it to about 40 minutes. It's the winemaker, myself, my wife, and then our chef, and we deliver food with it. And we found out that some of the people have us on one screen, and then they're doing a Zoom meeting with their friends who also subscribe to the wine tasting. So it's really been fun to get feedback from the people who participated.
That's great input. I hope that everybody heard you, Bob. So again, the point is that this is not only limited to the immediate group, but it can expand beyond that. So your members and your customers can also be ambassadors for others. And you said that you were keeping it to about 40 minutes?
Right.
Is that for Zoom reasons because of the free account, or is that just kind of the sweet spot where people kind of lose interest after?
We're doing it on Facebook Live. So that is my wife saying that's the sweet spot.
Yep.
You know, that we don't want to lose interest. Some of the feedback that we got to, talking to friends of ours who've done it, that they pay a little bit of attention to us, and then they're talking with their family around the table at the same time. So it's, so it's really, I don't know how much, they're really watching us 100%, but that's fine. We didn't expect them to do that.
I see. I misunderstood you before. So it's less about sharing the experience to the broader audience, and it's more about just ADD and lack of complete focus. Is that more so the point?
Well, it depends on your expectations going in.
Sure.
But it's interesting to get feedback on how people are using this as a social time and a time to touch base with others.
I think this is Christy Walker in another socially distant from my husband, or physically distant.
She's the one that likes it 40 minutes.
I think 40 minutes. I got we got great feedback. One is 4 bottles is a lot of wine to have for one person. And so she shared it with her neighbors, and she poured the glasses ahead of time, put them on her doorstep, and then the neighbors each came and got their glass. And then so, you know, the multiple households were sharing one at the virtual wine tasting. We had, you know, some people who are, I think it's just meant to be, you know, an escape for 40 minutes. Self-medicate, have some good foods, hear something positive. Just it, we all need a little escape at least once a day.
Well,
So that's what it's providing.
great. Thank you for both of you sharing that, Christy and Bob. That's super helpful, and hopefully everybody on the call, somebody who's not doing that right now, there are a lot of good examples that were just discussed. So hopefully you can steal that and execute it in a correct way for your brand. Thank you again for sharing. And anybody else who has stories, please bring them up. We're in the final slides, and I want to leave time for questions as well as being respectful of the hour that you've given me. So public relations, I bring this up because there are aspects of public relations that are important during times of crisis, and you may not have an engine that you use or a routine schedule for communicating with industry publications, but if you have major cancellation of an event, or if you are forced to furlough or lay off workers, I would recommend that you take a look at just a very basic one-page press release. And there's a template that's always available. It's very formulaic. It's just a means of letting the local publicity and media know that something's going on at your winery. And it helps to broadcast this message to a larger audience. It's not going to reflect poorly on you to communicate these major events. What would probably reflect poorly is if you took the time to communicate a lot of new releases and such. I think we just need to be a little conscious of what the customer wants right now and keep the new release communications to Facebook, social, email, website. Keep industry press releases and public relations. Keep that for dramatic business changing events. You have resources that are available to you, and Nicole and her team are incredible in this regard, just making sure that Iowa wine growers and wineries are equipped to handle this with the most up-to-date information from the resources that they really deem credible. And this is just a very small list, but something that we found is just the, again, association. There's no nationwide, it seems, winemaking resource like there is for breweries, for example, with the Brewers Association and such. I think it's more in the hands of associations regionally. And then the last one is just email. We talked a little bit about it, but again, now is not the time to go quiet with email. There is an opportunity to tastefully promote your product, again, with the customer in mind. Imagine yourself as a customer receiving your email. How would you respond? Did you add value to their day? Did you tell them something they didn't know? Now isn't the time to be talking about coronavirus and what's happening as far as the world stage. They see that undoubtedly everywhere else they look. If you want to talk about what's happening in terms of the crisis, make sure they understand how your business has changed and how they can continue to do business with you if they choose to. And then highlight those aspects of your business that are trying to entertain or add value during this challenging time, whether that's pointing people to the social posts or if it's the event schedule like Bob and Christy talked about. If there's an opportunity to give them an outlet, to Christy's point, this is exactly what's needed right now. So use email to talk about changes as well as what's ahead. What to avoid is the same old that everybody is communicating. And there was that rash of emails 2 weeks ago that you might as well have slapped somebody else's logo and somebody else's winery name in the header, and it was exactly the same email. But now is not the time for that. It's also not the time to be overly promotional because it just seems a little insensitive. I'm wondering, open for everybody, but has anybody witnessed either inside wine or outside wine just some terrible, awful practices with respect to being overly promotional? Anybody's welcome to jump in otherwise. It always goes right here. It's trash. And even more so, it has a damaging effect on the brand perception. Now is not the time to do anything to damage your brand because they'll remember that once this is all said and done. So left some time for questions. Really want to open this up, and again, we're going to have the opportunity both on marketyourcraft.com as well as Nicole's resource site to post all of the materials we talked about today, to post the video, a PDF of the presentation if you want to share it out with your team. And we are always available to help, again, just to talk about what opportunities are out there to help you through it. So what questions can we answer?
Hey, Scott, this is Bob Walker again. I really see wine drinking as a community event, and we really need that now. And we've kind of been shooting from the hip, trying to build a virtual community. I think we've done okay with it, but what other things would you suggest we do in an appropriate way?
To attract new virtual customers?
Yeah, new virtual customers and build that community of, have a glass of wine with your friends virtually on Zoom or something like that. I don't know. I'm kind of scratching my head at what more we should be doing.
It's a great question. And for everybody's benefit, again, the question is, how can we, I'm paraphrasing, how can we extend the same really intimate, fun experience that we're currently offering to our customers to a wider audience? How do you help entertain people? People need to be entertained at this point while still grabbing new business, because ultimately we want to have 3 new customers for every current customer. 2 things immediately come to mind, Bob, and maybe even some of our other attendees have some offers. The first one is invite your current customers to be ambassadors for you. Give them the tools that they need to set up a tasting with their friends who aren't currently customers. And granted, the logistics of getting wine to people, not everybody lives next door to where they can actually have a poured glass of wine sitting on their doorstep in order to have this remote wine tasting for friends. But even if there's not a glass of wine in their hand, if it's not a glass of your wine, you could make this an event that is bigger than just your brand. It's bring people together for something fun. What if this is 3 parts? You talked about food before. Maybe the first part is a cooking class. So 10 minutes you take and you're actually in the kitchen and you put together a pairing for an appetizer. The second is you cross over to a local artist who plays, 2 songs and a quick set. And the third is talking to the winemaker or the team in some way, just about the varietal, maybe it's a Chardonnay or some type of themed wine, even if it's not yours. I think there's just an opportunity for you to be creative, but then use that platform to empower your current customers to extend your brand reach by inviting others. And then the second is a little bit more of a promotional thing, but spend a little bit of money in Facebook and do like audiences. And so if you haven't already, the posts that you put up, you can definitely check the business stats on the back end of it. Once you see that one of your organic posts is starting to gain a lot of traction with your followers and fans, then boost that post to like-minded and similarly demographic people, age range, male, female, whatever your sweet spot is, and spend 5, 10, 15, $50 against that to extend the reach of that post. So those are two ideas. Does that help?
Yeah, it really does. And, you know, we've done it on Facebook Live because it's open to everyone. We've talked about doing it on Zoom, but then you have to have a link to that meeting. Can you talk to us about the pros and cons of both?
Well, I think you can get by the link to the meeting, or you could at least address it by making sure that the link is available in a post, making sure that your current customers or current attendees are able to forward that link to a friend, and then make sure that your Zoom setup, if it's the free one, I believe it's 100 participants and 40 minutes. The paid one is $15 a month, and it's unlimited time for 100 participants. So all you need is that link. I like Facebook Live because it gives you access to a broader audience. Zoom is a little more specific, but that's not to say that you can't promote by way of social your upcoming Zoom happy hour. Does that help?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm asking all the questions, so somebody else jump in.
Please
But
ask.
I do have one more, and that's about like MailChimp and stuff like that. We are getting a lot of people on our virtual wine tastings that have never been to the winery. So do we automatically add them to our MailChimp newsletter? Do we ask for permission? How should we be doing that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And right now, I'm always a proponent of opt-in, and people need to know that how or where or when they became a member of your newsletter list. That being said, if you have people participating in your virtual tastings by way of Facebook, then it's completely appropriate to ask if you can message them in the future, and collecting email addresses that way, I would have no issue with that. I don't like buying lists. I don't think that's appropriate. You also have that opportunity with current newsletter subscribers. You're familiar with MailChimp, obviously. For those of you who aren't, it's free up till 2,000 people. So, and 12,000 sends a month. But there's an opportunity in MailChimp to forward to a friend. And so if you message that appropriately within the context of your email, you could say, we've got this virtual tasting and we want to include you and your family or you and your friends or whatever your messaging is. As a valued customer of ours, we'd like to extend the same benefit that we're giving you to your crew. Here's how you do it. Sign them up here, and then link basically to the newsletter sign-up page, at which point they would get an invitation to that upcoming event. So there are ways to appropriately do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and happy to take it offline too if we can be of any help. How about any other questions? There's a lot there. I totally get it, and some people may not feel comfortable asking in front of such a large group, but happy to answer here or.
Yeah, I'd like to ask either Bob or Christy, how did they promote their virtual wine tasting? Did they just send an email to all their list, and then did people that want to join, did they come and get the wine, or was the wine sent to them? just a little bit more about how they initiated that process.
Yeah, Joanne, this is Bob. I did a short 1-minute video of it and put it on Facebook. We've put a lot of things on Facebook. I also used my LinkedIn as well, and then I tweeted it out as well. And then we had a bunch of shares from everybody on the team and from our Facebook site.
Okay, and so did they come and get the wine, or was it mailed to them, or how did they get the wine?
We're actually delivering. It takes 3 of us to deliver. So 2 routes in Iowa City and then 1 into Cedar Rapids. And, I had 7 deliveries in Cedar Rapids. It's about 15 to 18 miles up to Cedar Rapids, then all around Cedar Rapids. But it was fun. It was, I know some folks up there. And then we have a lot of new fans that can't wait till we're open and come out to the winery.
Okay. And then you made them prepay before you did the delivery?
Right. We did all the orders on Stripe. So they come in that way and then we deliver that way.
Okay.
We come,
Yeah, my other question was that we didn't cover was about gift cards. I've noticed a lot of people, retailers and small business people are saying purchase a gift card now to redeem later. Have you had any experience with that, either Bob or Scott?
So real quickly, and Bob, I'd love to hear your experience too, but what we've seen here recently is execution of gift cards for 2 different purposes. One, people have been, breweries especially seem to be doing this, but breweries, wineries, distilleries who don't necessarily have the full e-commerce capabilities and can't ship or execute a good local pickup or delivery model, they use gift cards for future purchases just to try and have a little bit of additional income. The second one was if you don't necessarily have a robust e-commerce provider where you can list each of the products individually and purchase each of the products, what wineries have been doing that I've seen, and breweries as well, is they're using the gift card as the amount of the bottle of wine or crowler or growler or whatever package format. So the gift card could very well be $15.99 plus tax, and you're essentially buying a gift card to redeem for wine. What about you, Bob?
we haven't used any gift cards on it. One of the things that we're doing that y'all might want to consider, and I really haven't promoted it much, instead of a gift card, so really it's a pre-sale of wine. We do a vineyard team where for $300, you buy 3 vines, and Christy puts a nice sign on a post denoting your 3 vines. You get a Walker Homestead hat and t-shirt, and that alone is worth $300, right? That's a joke. But then you get a case of the next year's vintage. So if we sell when we sell in 2020, you would get a 2020 case of 2020 vintage when we put it together. So it's, gift cards again are kind of pre-sales. And here we're trying to build emotional attachment to our vineyard. People will buy stars as a gift to somebody, and you can't get next to your star for a picture, but eventually you'll be able to come out to our winery and get a picture of you next to your name and your vines.
That's a really clever idea.
Just a creative thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Joanne, thanks for asking that question. That was really good.
So Scott, you want to be a member?
Absolutely.
All right. What's your credit card number?
Yeah.
Always be selling, always be closing, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, if anybody was looking for an obnoxious promotional effort, Bob just gave us one.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And the gift cards, a lot of people have been using gift cards just as an effort to kind of help get them through. We know we're going to get past this, but if you are supporting your local winery or producer, buying a gift card that could be redeemed in person in a month or two is a great idea, and it's completely in bounds to promote. What other questions do we have? I want to be respectful of our time. I've already taken more than I had asked for, but these are great conversations. I've neglected the chat window. I apologize. Somebody should have, sounded the car horn or something like, Scott, you're talking too much. Come on, man. Seems like we've covered a lot of the questions. Bob, thank you for voicing those questions that you had in chat. If I've missed anything, or if we hadn't had a good, rich discussion around any of these questions that came up in chat, Joanne, Bob, otherwise, then please take it offline, and happy to follow up with you directly. If not,
Hey, this is Nicole. Thank you so much, Scott, for doing this webinar. If anybody has questions, feel free to chime in. Because if you've been asking them, you're still on mute.
True.
I was gonna just make one comment. Another thing that we're doing at Wide River is driving people to local grocery stores that carry our wine. And we've, our wholesale business has increased quite a bit since the shutdown. And so we're telling customers, hey, did you know you can find most of our wines at Hy-Vee and Schnucks and our local grocery stores. So
I think that's a great idea. I know, like, our local grocery store, I live in a small town, this is Nicole, and because we've had so many cases just in our little town, they stopped like the in-person sales, and they're only doing like curbside pickup, but they still carry Iowa wines, and so you can throw it on your list and they'll bring it out to you. So
great idea. Well, and also just great partner efforts. So you've got good retailer partners pushing people to them while you have the opportunity to is just fine. Excuse me. What other questions? Well, Nicole, this has been awesome. Certainly appreciate you and your team and the support. And if we can do anything in return for you or your team members or the association, please don't hesitate to ask. We've got a bunch of resources that are available to help people market through this. Happy to work on specific projects, help walk you through them, help you determine what the right resources would be to execute. Whatever we can do to help you get past this, that's our job.
we really appreciate you taking the time to prepare for this, Scott, and to lead this webinar. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, my pleasure. As I said, all the stuff will be available to Nicole momentarily, and looking forward to the next time we talk. Everybody stay safe.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, good ideas.
Appreciate you attending.